the yoga of thinking, screen thinking, I draw your attention to the largely passive nature of television gazing, video games, movies, etc. As with reading stories, most of the body is passive while the eyes are very active. In the middle of most screen experiences, like we saw in watching ourselves reading, we are scarcely, minimally aware of ourselves. Story-induced feeling, words in my head precipitating emotional reactions, predominates. We don't choose screen thoughts and are not aware of ourselves. Attention is almost completely absorbed by the automaton of watching. The body recedes into quietude. The outside world through the eyes and ears are essentially shut off. In the everyday sense of looking around, being aware of my local environment. The individual doesn't generate the experiences of story, dialogue, or encounter. They, story experiences, are generated in him or her. And the vast majority of what is happening takes place in storyland, which overwhelmingly consists in word token simulated interpersonal encounter, dialogue, analogic actions on the screens. Word token simulated interpersonal encounter, dialogue, analogic actions on the screen. Those are not real people up there. We've learned to interpret them as actual. We've engineered modern technologies to seamlessly project visual analogs of people, places, voice. This is a quite new and novel species of extended or embodied thinking. Screens of any kind are only about 100 years old, and the unbelievable proliferation of screens in the modern world only about 25 years old. I've rustled up a couple of movie scenes to watch on your favorite screen. I'm going to stop constraining your thoughts by telling you stuff for about 3 minutes, but your screen is going to constrain your vision, hearing, inner ear, and whole mental apparatus very powerfully for these 3 minutes. Get ready. For a few seconds, though, look at your dead or frozen screen. It's going to light up. Really well-crafted blobs of color will move and do things. Words attached to these screen beings will speak in your noggin. And unlike most of the time, you're going to look at what's playing on this screen and attempt to observe it and yourself simultaneously. A very new thing you're going to try to do is listen to your own thoughts as an observer as you watch and partake. Listen to and note what thoughts come up as you're watching. Paying attention to what series of thoughts appear, how they relate together, what thought follows the previous thought. Ready? Start now.
Where's the Queen?
I was given to understand that she is otherwise occupied, Your Grace.
Every day I wake up in this strange house, and I remember that my parents are dead.
Tell me something about your mom. Something that makes you happy.
Stop now. Could you do it? Could you stay aware of yourself for a minute or two? Or did you get absorbed by the screen story just about immediately? Exactly analogous to what we self-observed while reading, most of the time, almost immediately, I am oblivious to my body, oblivious to almost all my extraneous thoughts and usual word streams. Can the viewer remember this loss of consciousness? It's a strange state, isn't it? And it's strange that it doesn't feel strange, but usual and absolutely comfortable. Unlike with reading, when squiggles get the words into our heads via the reading automaton, unlike with reading, but analogous to everyday life, complexes of sound get the words into our heads. And with screen experiencing, images, visual analogs of places, persons, and things that simulate life get the pictures into our heads. Images, which are visual analogs, get the pictures into our heads. Moving images, visual analogs of places, persons, and things, get the pictures into our heads. We never remember that the screen simulates the world. I propose that during the experience of story on screen, we cannot remember that the screen only simulates the world. Modern children watch screen phantasms on screens of every size so early that there is never any differentiation between what's seen on a screen and the real world of family and friends. Story people have agency, intention, thoughts, feelings, moralities. Screen people are experienced as if they have agency, intention, thoughts, feelings, moralities, although they don't. It's funny that I have to add, although they don't have these aspects of being human. Screen people have no selves, just like fictional creatures don't have souls. What's so interesting about what never happened? What's so interesting about word processing that makes one feel that these people are actual? For how long could you observe yourself watching this show, this presentation of mine? I'd hazard a guess of seconds before you became lost in the story presentation. Did you notice how the body went away when you became lost in the story? Did you notice how automatically you were absorbed into the story? Was there any awareness of the switch from being aware and awake of everyday surroundings to being completely immersed in video world? Actually, it's quite difficult, if not impossible, to separate oneself from an automaton that was developed when we were pre-conscious, that has been used and taken for granted our whole lives, and an automaton that society neither recognizes as strange nor differentiates from everyday lived experiencings. We've been finding out that thinking itself is an automaton, introjected into pre-conscious children. Introjected into pre-conscious children who don't see, as society doesn't see, it the automaton, as it operates in the individual. Seeing and all the physical automatons of perception likewise are invisible to the perceivers. Let's do this again. Let's try again, shall we? This time, before I start the video, feel your body. Feel yourself initiating a new behavior that requires you to be aware in a new and different manner. Prime yourself to feel, observe your thinking outside the experience of watching a series of scenes. Listen to and note what thoughts come up as you're watching. Pay attention to what series of thoughts appear, how they relate, what thought follows the previous thought. Start now.
Every day I wake up in this strange house, and I remember that my parents are dead.
Tell me something about your mom. Something that makes you happy.
Where's the Queen?
I was given to understand that she is otherwise occupied, Your Grace.
Now we're back. We could explore this in many ways. Watch a dry documentary. Feel the initial scene and the next and the next. Listen to the announcer's voice. Eventually, do they use music to add feeling? Sometimes, especially if you're not into what you're watching, you wake up and decide to change the channel. You have a minute of distancing until you fall back into the cinematic offering. Watch an emotional scene that stirs you. Watch the crucifixion of Jesus in Mel Gibson's The Passion of the Christ. Watch the end scene of Schindler's List. Watch a porn scene. Watch a lion attacking a hyena on TikTok. For modern word processing primates, transformed into media processing primates by our superb analog generating machines, screen folk are analogs of real folks. Screen happenings are analogs of actual happenings. For much casual reading and most popular cinematic experiencings, emotion is our drug of choice. Horror, adventure, superheroes, rom-coms, crime, war, comedy. All these shows elicit every imaginable emotional reaction. We vicariously experience analog situations that would have been ferociously dangerous and even lethal if real, if actual. We feel, as we said about reading, from the safety of our comfy couches. Unself-conscious, our minds process words, stories, and analogous experiences of every kind. This yoga is not an attempt to analyze or criticize screens or media. The attempt is to be awake to the experience of being taken over by very early implanted and massively conditioned automatons of the mind. To try and experience the meta-awareness, the meta-awareness of what an experience is in itself. The yoga of reading shows us it is almost impossible to be aware of myself while reading. The screen world presents stories seamlessly attached, embedded in visual analogs of our world. While we sleep, the mind elaborates realms of nothingness that evaporate on awakening. Reading elaborates verbal realms that evaporate when we come to and return to our everyday lives. Cinema elaborates spectacular visual simulacra that go through our minds and evaporate on awakening. It's even more impossible to awaken to ourselves as we are absorbed into screens. Historically, we've indoctrinated ourselves. Our clan self-facilitated the absorption of knowledges and the implantations of culture. We've indoctrinated ourselves into believing in literature, history, philosophy, religion, and every kind of elaborated, introjected story. Story things transmitted and transmuted via the act of reading. Story things transmitted and transmuted via the act of projecting them on screens. In modern times, we've addicted ourselves to every manner of screen happenings, almost automatically believing in what we see and hear. We crave the illusion of connection our phones provide. We love the emotional spurts we receive from simulated experiences of 1,000 varieties. Our media think for us. Our media think in us. The word processing primate achieved predominance over the last few recent centuries and swept away all the old cultures and human ways of being. The screen processing primate emerged. The screen processing primate spends his or her life experiencing simulacra and chimera of every variety and cannot stop.